Welcome to the ActsSocial podcast. Today's special sponsors are Chick-fil-A, Hobby Lobby, and Grand Canyon University. Thank you so much to our generous sponsors. Let's get started. All right, we are up. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. So blessed to have you on our next episode of the ActsSocial podcast. My name is, you should know, Shawn Whitson, CEO, founder, ActsSocial. I want to thank you again for watching another episode. And our purposes here are in this industry, in our ministry, if you will, we run into some of God's people who have some really neat stories and the way God has formed them and brought them up. And a lot of times ends up into their podcast, their business, things they do, absolutely no different. I'm really excited about this one. Mr. James Rosseau with Holy Culture. Holyculture.net is our guest with us today. And man, I can't wait to dig in. So James, welcome.
Thank you for having me, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you and I had a little preliminary meeting back, I think, gosh, was that a week and a half ago on that? And we had my assistant had came across your stuff and realized, wow, this is a really neat setup. You've got to talk to James. So that's where we're at. We had our little meeting, man, and I was just blown away from where God has kind of morphed and bent and took you down paths and, you know, hardships. I think you and I joked around, and I do this with a lot of the guests, is we make the comment of there's always a message in the mess, and it kind of holds true. You know, and we go through hard times, we get formed up good by just to glorify his kingdom, of course. So
definitely,
man, with that, I think our listeners would be very intrigued to hear your story. So you start as early as you want to, and then we'll work kind of up into where Holy Culture and where it is today and where everybody can find you and all the things that you do, actually.
Absolutely. Thank you.
There's several. So yeah, take the floor.
Okay. So I again, James Rosseau, most people call me Trig, T-R-I-G as in God. That's my nickname. I grew up in North Philadelphia, in the heart of the city, and I was one of those kids, running around doing a number of things. I think I was a horn player in a band, and my trumpet got stolen one year, and the next thing you know, hip hop was rising, and so I quickly converted from playing a horn to wanting to be a DJ and a rapper and all those things. And by my mom's wisdom, she said to me, "Hey, I'm not supporting another one of your quick fly-by-night hobbies. So you're gonna figure this one out yourself." And so I took a summer job at 14 and was able to buy a turntable after that summer. And the rest is history in terms of growing into rap music. But I also had a father who left my house early in my years, and I always felt like I never had his validation, and so I always struggled with that. And even after moving in with him, after a number of years, I think it was my last year of high school, he just disappeared one day. And after a series of disappearances, he passed away way too early. And that threw me into, I always say when people go through grief and trauma, some ways of acting out are very apparent and very visible. Other ways are not so. My way was not so. My way of acting out was with that lack of validation, of course, which I didn't know at the time. I just had to perform well at everything. So I became a young career guy in a bank in Wilmington, Delaware called WSFS. And I moved into some consulting and managing bigger teams. And I moved to Chase, and, my career really took off at Chase and became a senior vice president at probably about 34, which was at that time one of the youngest in the companies. And then moved into Allstate Insurance to be head of a business there, and then kept going. And my career was really flourishing. But all the while, I was getting these signals of there's something else. I was always doing music.
Little promptings. Little nudges.
Absolutely. And I was doing all these things on the side. And, while I was growing in my career, at the same time, I never let the music go. When I was probably about 21, 22, I had an interaction with someone who I was producing secular rap, and I had my studio at my brother-in-law's home, a store, and they asked me if one of their friends could come down and listen to what I was doing. I said, sure, let him come down. He comes down, and he's listening to my music, and as he turns to leave, Shawn, he turns and says, "Man, you do some great stuff. It's a shame it's not for the Lord."
Ooh, ouch.
I said, "I'm sorry, what?" What'd you say? And he repeated,
under the table. Ouch.
Oh man, he said it again. He said, "You do some great stuff. It's a shame it's not for the Lord." And I was just so convicted the next day.
Oh man, I'd be crushed too.
I was so convicted. And the words that came to me from God were, "You may not be saying it, the words that are not only not supporting me, but averse to me, but you're giving the soundtrack to it. And so it's just as bad." And I called every rapper I was working with and said, listen, you got a week. I'm wrapping this up. I'm done. doing secular music, and that was it. I've been Christian rap ever since. It was over 20 years ago, and one thing leads to another. I had always wanted to do radio, and so we started buying some time on AM radio and over New Jersey, and I met a guy named Vic Padilla. He was the founder of Holy Culture, and him and I got linked and became partners. He invited me in to be a partner after a period of time, and then he left subsequently, not too long, probably eight years after that. And so I've been the CEO of Holy Culture now since probably 2010-ish. And I already had a company, a legal entity, CoreLink Ministries. Our focus was on how we empower people to reach their potential. And we just merged everything together. And so Holy Culture today operates under this notion of what we call faith, arts, vocation, and education. And
that's good.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Wow, man. Wow. So tell me, in your process of finding now going into, finding rappers who stick to the word, are using the gospel, for their talents. Is it tough to weed them through? Is it tough to find them?
I would say sort of. I mean, the good news is the community in and of itself is a thriving community. And I think there's so many people that I believe with an iron sharpens iron approach help do that sifting, right? Help kind of lift up people who are clearly presenting the word with substance, presenting great art at the same time in excellence, and helping those folks rise to the top. So the community does so much for us in that regard.
Yeah. Well, probably a ton of word of mouth too.
Ton of word of mouth.
Bird of a feather flock together. So when they see others that are using God's work for their talents, they also have friends sometimes and connections they run into on that. So tell me, for the music label that you've got started and the artists that you've got on board, man, I was pretty floored by that, man. That's been really taking off. It sounds like.
Yeah. So we launched the Holy Culture Radio has been around as a way to listen to music for a long period of time. In 2018, the Lord impressed upon me it was time to leave the corporate world and do this full time, right? And I'm sure you've been through some of the same. Really, God, is this really? I'm fiscally conservative. Help me see this. Help me make sure we got enough money for me to fail for a period of time. Like, I need all the things, right?
Yeah, comprende.
And the Lord gives you just enough to take the next step. And so we took the step and we did it, and we launched the mobile app in 2022. We launched our channel on SiriusXM, and that was unbelievable because we went from, let's call it, 10 to 20,000 listeners to, in a couple months after launching SiriusXM, close to 5 million. And the next thing was, okay, well, we've got to also then keep this thing funded. How do we do this, right? And trying to fill advertising one, and advertising.
Then there's that.
One thing. Yeah, right. And so we said, well, what would it look like if we launched a record label? And obviously we can support our artists with our radio station, right? And that, it's vertical integration. And so we launched the label in July of 23. We've got 8 artists fully on the label, plus some additional projects. And it's been wonderful because most of the artists that have come to the label have also been longtime friendships and journeymen, if you will, right? People we've journeyed with for a while. So these are great relationships coming to fruition in some new work. Yeah.
I bet, man. I bet. When you and I talked the other day, you talked about, first of all, we'll get into this subject and you'll probably know where we're going with it, because we talked the other day, the samples, would you call that an application to the record label? When someone sends in some sample music and stuff like that, and what you have to sift through to be able to do that? Because the industry, the rapping industry, for a lot of the listeners here that aren't super familiar with it, beyond the blatant names that are known for, Christian rap sides right now.
Right.
The whole industry as a whole kind of gets a bad rap, no pun intended, for language and going straight back into secular to it. So is it tough going through all those submissions that you get in?
We get many more on the radio side, right? I would say easily, 30 to 50 plus a week on radio. I mean, that's just kind of par for the course of music. I think the last stat I saw was there are about 35,000 new songs released on Spotify every day.
Wow.
Think about that. Just think about that.
I did not know that.
New tracks every day, right? And I mean, if you think about the DIY period we're in now, where a person can wake up in the morning, have an idea, record it by noon, and have it out on the digital platforms by 5 o'clock. I mean, it's going from what would take months
Golly.
it could be same day. And so we get a lot of submissions sent to us, and yes, we take the time to weed through them. But the good news, I would say, Shawn, is that far and few in between are inappropriate. That's the good news.
Yeah.
That's the good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good news, actually, man. And I
Yeah.
think I don't want to get off down the revival train, but a lot of stats are talking about revivals with young kids too. That even the young kids are getting sick of the junk they're soaking in from
Yes.
TV, social, and music. That even them, they're starting to realize it's not a good path. And man, I don't think that happened since the hippie years,
No,
of,
exactly.
the 60s, when they stopped and realized we're not going down a good path. So that's pretty cool to see young people headed down that way. And man, that's going to be a big vertical to be in. It already is. It's already growing exponentially.
I think you're exactly right. I think people, whatever language they choose to use, right? Lower vibrations versus high vibrations, positive versus, things that lead me to things I don't want to continue to do. People are seeking something.
Yeah.
And
right,
so
man.
we can find them when they're seeking. It's an awesome time.
I know. Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
You and I are on similar paths for, heading down. Sorry, my earphones are falling out here today.
No worries.
You and I are headed down similar paths for platforms that want to make a difference.
Yes.
What we're trying to do with the social is the same thing you're trying to do in that part of the music industry.
Yes.
The growth is just coming. We don't have to fight and claw for it. It's just coming in on that. So I think that says a lot to it. So what's future plans, man, for Holy Culture? Because I know you've actually within Holy Culture, if you want to explain to everybody the different verticals you've got going on.
Sure.
You've got a podcast, you got the label. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff going on.
So I'll start with holyculture.net. That's the website, and that's been there for almost 2 decades, where we try to do a good job of a couple of things. One, provide news, right, and for what's happening in the CHH ecosystem. 2, allowing artists to share their news. So we made almost a self-managed part of the site where artists can come on and share their stories, because not everything may get picked up by someone managing the site who's trying to act as a semi-journalist, if you will, but come tell your stories. 2, a listing of all events that are happening around the world, right? So people can come and post their events so people know where to go. 3,
which is hard to find, by the way.
It's hard to find sometimes.
Events are tough. Yeah, events
particularly
are tough.
in a niche. Not everything is going to be on Eventbrite or Bands in Town or one of those things, right? And so we try to be conscious that we are still a niche and a subgenre. And so that way, people who are enthusiasts of this niche know exactly where to go. And so we have all the events. And then the third is almost a database of the artists of, let's call it, Christian hip hop friendly churches and such, and the labels. And so you have now a place you can go, a repository of data of, here are artists here. You can even get to a map screen and say, I am trying to plan something in Chicago, Illinois. What artists are within a certain radius of Illinois, and so on and so forth. So we try to do those 3 things. So that's one part, the website. The second part is radio, of course. We have 24/7 radio, both on our Holy Culture mobile app as well as SiriusXM Channel 140. We have 19 shows. And so that is a whole thing. We've got, 4 daily shows, 3 or so during the week and in the evenings, and then 11 on the weekend, right? So we are hopping in that regard. And every show has its own key topics, all within the Fave framework, but each one have their own flavor, their own key topics they feel passionate about, the music they like to spin within our, our rotational context. And so, so that's that. And the third thing I would speak to is we have what we call the Core Link solution. And that's the other part of our company that really focuses on that V&E, the vocation and education. And that's where my personal show and podcast kind of live under that brand, the Core Link solution, and talking about how people advance in their careers and take their faith with them while they do it. There's, having grown up in the corporate context, I think a lot of times people felt like they had to leave their faith in their car or at the turnstile before they walk into the building.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And what I try to talk about continually is you do not.
That is right.
You should take it with you. It should show up in your leadership principles. It should show up in how you manage. It should show up in how you interact with other people. They should find something peculiar about you in the working environment, right? And so
you're exactly right. Yeah.
So that's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right on that, man. In fact, I'll add to that. If you're truly trying in your walk with the Lord, it comes off. Sometimes people can't quite put a finger on it, but there is a sense of joy and peace to people that sometimes we can feel it just interacting with people on that.
Absolutely.
And, Going into work, everybody, probably a big portion, feels like they need to be a pastor or a preacher and know it all, or throw a little hell and brimstone in the conversation. It's actually just the opposite, man. It's just to really just really love it on people.
Absolutely.
Is a big part of it. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Subtlety can go a
absolutely.
long way. Just
Yeah, you're
showing up
exactly
with
right.
subtlety can go a long way.
You're exactly right. I think we were joking on a show not too long ago, and we talked about two preachers standing, street preachers, because they're, boy, are they ever known for a loud mouth. So
Mm-hmm.
street preachers, standing on the sidewalk, one with a bullhorn, doing some hell and brimstone talk about what's going to
Yeah.
happen to people, and the other one just, bending over and picking up the dropped groceries, and
Mm-hmm.
loving on people and stuff. And they attract and are able to get the gospel through to people 95% of the time better than the person yelling through the bullhorn of
Yeah.
telling people their
I
problems
believe
on
it.
that, because we
I
all got
believe
them.
it.
So yeah, absolutely. Well,
Believe
man,
it.
thanks for that rundown. That was something. Tell me, what are some of the hardships now? Because a lot of times we look back, and at the time we're going through hardships, we think, you know, how, why it was ever happened, and then we look ahead, sometimes even a decade or two back, and you look back and you say, "Gosh, if I hadn't have gone through that, I would not be at the level I am today on
Yeah.
that." So, do you have any hardship stories that you're comfortable sharing on the air
Yeah.
on
Well,
that
I
kind of
think the
stuff that
first
God's
was
brought you through?
absolutely. First was the loss of my father as I kind of speeded through that, but sped through that rather. Losing him was big for me, right? Because again, I never felt like I had that validation. So I was somewhat working for it, right? And so then when he disappeared, found him, disappeared again, found him, disappeared again, found him, and then he passed away. I'll never forget, Shawn. When someone passes away, you go through all the things getting ready for the funeral,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're just in operating mode and you're not
Chaos.
processing necessarily. But I remember at the funeral, literally the funeral director, I don't know why, asking me to close the casket. And that's when I
Really?
broke. And I think a part of the breaking was not just that he had left, but that was the finality of me getting that validation.
Yeah.
It just
Closed
all
door,
hit me
no
at
pun
once.
intended.
Yeah. And so I would just say that it's hard sometimes to see what the Lord is taking you through. But then when I watch what he took me through in my corporate career and working in different ways, being in different areas, it was in preparation for this role as CEO of Holy Culture. There's no way in the world, I believe, that I could have, for example, helped launch Holy Culture Radio on SiriusXM without all that administrative practice, so to speak. Right. How to run big budgets, how to manage teams and virtual teams. I mean, one time I had a team of 400 folks between 6-7 cities, plus some people in Europe, plus some people in India, plus some people in Australia.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so this is pre-pandemic, right? This is years ago.
Yeah.
And so all of those things come into play now. There was no way in the world, I should say nowhere in the world, but I wouldn't have been prepared to deal with operating in a niche space had I not tried to launch a business in Allstate. And when I went to Allstate to run that business, the remit I was given, Shawn, was, need you to build $1 billion business in 5 years that looks like this. I said, sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had run something like it in the credit card business, but I said, yeah, I think I can bring that playbook and do it here. Here's the thing. I had a chance to do this in a company that was already making $35 billion. So for them to give me the budget, give me a corner in the property and whatnot, 40 people and whatnot, it was such an excellent, for lack of better terms, playground to hone those skills of building something brand new that didn't exist in the insurance industry, right? So I think about that process of even going out to all insurance commissioners, getting their permission to do the kind of policies I wanted to do to build this product. All that is transferable skills and experiences into building a niche here in Christian hip hop, right? In an industry that
It is.
Right now, I mean, gospel music is 2% of the overall music industry. So then think about
tiny
our piece within that.
It needs to be bigger.
Right? So you're already at 2%, and we're a portion of the 2%, right? And so all the things I had to deal with then in terms of when you're not quote unquote the highest value for people and it's hard to get prioritized, I've learned how to do all those things. So I would just say, all those kind of things counted. And the last thing I would say is when going through all those things and I wasn't listening to God's voice, he sent somebody to make sure I heard it.
Yeah.
And I would just say, for those
little stabbings here and there, like that one guy.
Man.
Yeah.
Literally one day
Too
I'm
bad it's
driving
not for the
highway.
Lord.
Exactly. I'm driving out I-95 from Philadelphia to Delaware, and this guy's behind me honking it, flashing his lights. I pull out the way. He gets behind me again, flashing his lights. I finally pull over, and a guy walks up to my window on the highway.
That
And
ain't
he's
good.
shaking, he's scared, he's nervous. He said, I've never done anything like this before, but the Lord told me to pull you over and tell you he's got work for you to do.
What?
What?
You can't make that stuff up, man. That's
I'm
dang.
I'm at
Yeah.
24, 25. What? What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Man.
And I've had 2 or
Yeah.
3 of those, just like I told you, the guy who said to me, "You're doing some great stuff, shame it's not for the Lord." Over
Yeah.
a course of 15 years, I've had 3 or 4 promptings like that, where when I wasn't
Wow.
listening, the Lord used someone.
Yeah. 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 Because it's hard to hear his voice sometimes, man. It's
Yeah.
no matter how good you get to, I think no matter what level people are in their spiritual maturity, even if it's decades of close to the Father, it
Yeah.
is still not the easiest thing to hear the Holy Spirit speaking.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even clear when it comes through somebody. So if God takes us to that point, you know that he's watching over you, number one, and number two, he's got big plans for you. And number three, he ain't done with you yet.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that is wow, man. Pull you over on the side of the highway.
Pull me on the side of the
And
highway. My wife still can't. I think
wow.
sometimes when that story comes up, my wife can't believe I pulled over.
Yeah. Yeah, because man, flashing lights, get out of the car on the highway and walk up.
Yeah.
Somebody's probably under the influence of something to pull
Right.
that off.
Right.
That takes gall. Wow,
Yeah.
man. Wow,
Yeah.
that is something. All right. Well, good stuff. Real good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing all that.
Of course.
Thank you so very much.
Of course.
I want to, tell the crowd, obviously we've talked about holyculture.net, but where is all the podcasts under Holy Culture and the shows? They need to go onto the radio station to start digging into some of the shows that are
Absolutely.
happening, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would tell people, go to SiriusXM Channel 140. But if you don't have a subscription, go to holyculture.net and click on the radio tab. And then browse the site, hang around, watch some music videos. And obviously on social, everything is at Holy Culture. So you can check out our socials, our YouTube channel. And we're also on Glue TV, which is available on Roku and Apple TV and all those devices. You can check us
I've
out
seen
on
that
Glue
before.
TV. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I have seen that kind of stuff before. And we're going to try to get some of your music label. We're going to try to get some of your artists. That's the word I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
Over onto ActsSocial as well, because we're always looking for God-centered talent on that. And if you approve them, we approve them on that.
Love it.
So,
Thank
and
you.
you also be able to soon find Holy Culture sitting on ActsSocial. We're in the process of getting you all set up and all your connections there.
Yeah.
And so you can be in front of that, because man, let me tell you, it is not always the easiest thing to find content that is speaking truth to go on to ActsSocial from our creators like yourself and podcasters and things like that.
No, thank you for the welcome and having us for the discussion, and we look forward to it. I can only imagine how challenging it was to stand up ActsSocial. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, you bet, man. You bet. We get attacks all the time. Someday we'll talk about those attacks.
Yes.
On there. They happen every week. Every week
Every
we get
week.
slammed from something. Yeah.
Meaning
just
like cyber attacks and things like that?
Cyber attack last week was how do I phrase this nicely on a G-rated podcast? A gentleman who does not believe in God's marriage principles. I'm going to try to do this correctly. Who came in and wanted to, obviously pure hatred for ActsSocial, came in and started posting, I'm just going to say it, posted porn, same-sex porn, pounded the feeds down. Don't know how he got through, but whatever. So we are strengthening our, when you upload a video or a picture on, it goes through. We don't know how he was able to break through those, but he was. And the week before that, we had a predominantly Muslim country just about pull the server down from cyber attacks. And it happened again 2 or 3 weeks before that in a different country. So I guess if we're making impact and we're causing that much stir and that much going on, maybe we're doing the right thing then.
That's what they say, right? If
I know,
if the
man.
devil's not bothering you, you're not making noise. You're not doing
I know,
so,
but it sure is hard to swallow sometimes, though.
It's painful, right?
It is painful, man. It is painful. It is painful.
Yeah.
But anyway, man, thanks for everything. I know the audience enjoyed the story. I know how God works in your life, and you're doing some wonderful things, man.
Thank you.
And I know you're reaching a lot of people through music in an area where not many people go and dig in on that. So God bless you for what you're doing and for Kingdom Impact, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks everything from all of us. All right. We will get this posted up. And ladies and gentlemen, we thank you so very much for your time. Once again, go to holyculture.net. Check out the website and the mission work that's being done there. It's truly amazing. And thank you, James, for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shawn.
Bye for
Bye,
now,
Shawn.
everybody.